Lue Elizondo stole Tom Delonge from Dr. Greer. The reason that I say look at him really close is I have been convinced now for a couple years that they are like the same lizard person. Lue Elizondo versus Dr. Steven Greer. All right, look at him really close. Look at him. All right, yeah, we can see the cursor in there. Look at the nose, mouth, hand gestures. I'm not even sure these things are like as important as they seem to me right now. Just watch them. Lue Elizondo. Over here we got Dr. Steven Greer. I think probably the reigning champion. So again, look at the features here. The nose, the mouth, how he's moving his hands around. Here we go. We need some more hand movement, to compare hand movements. You see what I'm saying, everyone? And that's without the audio. I mean, let's turn on some of the audio, right? I think.
Unless otherwise directed letter that was from a civilian making the statement. And they wanted an official pathway. And I said, well, I don't control the Congress. I can only, sort of advise folks. And if they don't do it now, and this is why this is such a huge breakthrough for people listening to this show, there are a lot of Navy SEALs and Delta guys and Force guys.
Tip was not covert. It was sensitive and a lot of classified aspects to it, but it was not a Title 50 program. Although I ran it under, when I was wearing my Title 50 hat, under the covert umbrella.
Okay.
But from a time perspective, that some country had this technology 70 years ago actually lies. So for us to sit here and say, well,
and they have like a public feud. And what do they have to feud about? I guess, Dr. Greer says that Lue is a disinfo agent from the government, from the conspiracy. He's an insider who's been sent out to tell us all the things he's telling us and convince us that there's aliens and that they're bad and that we're going to have to fight them. Lue's position has definitely changed. But Greer's doesn't. He's Dr. Greer. If he's a wacko, he's a wacko, but he's Dr. Greer. Lue Elizondo, maybe he's a wacko too. But he's changed. He used to have only about 20 hours roughly of like internet airtime across all the different blogs and whatever for like a long time, for years. And then, just recently, since his book, basically, maybe a little bit before, it's just exploded. So he's been all over the place, not just Shawn Ryan show. I think this is his most recent appearance, not his most recent appearance, because I think I've seen him in other things. I looked through Shawn Ryan's stuff, and this was, I guess, Lue's only appearance on Shawn Ryan show. Dr. Greer's on Shawn Ryan a whole bunch of times. Maybe only twice, but he has a lot of clips, of course. But then he's also got buddies. Greer Camp cultists. A lot of Greer witnesses in the Greer library are, ex-government, ex-military. I think when I was first watching these, it says a year ago, but I think they're, more like 18 months or something. This was like a 3-part UFO whistleblower marathon from Shawn. These are all Greer guys. These are all guys. Well, maybe this guy hadn't been like featured in Greer stuff yet. And I think I was even saying, I think he's the least kooky of the 3 here as far as UFOs go. UFOs and aliens. This guy's been all over the place. You can find him, Eric Hecker, the Antarctica firefighter. But he's also like a plumber and a bunch of other stuff. If you've been paying attention at all for any amount of time, like years, you've probably seen this guy on like some kind of news channel. I'm not sure if everywhere he's been like the top. And he's kind of kooky, but the more he's been on stuff, the less kooky he's been. And kooky is just like, especially this dude. He's weird. And like, I'll say a lot. All the Greer people have like this weirdness about them that's very similar. And maybe Greer is all these people. Maybe the lizard person that's Dr. Greer and Lue Elizondo is actually all these people that seem to be so similar. So there's this other guy. His name's DC Long. He doesn't seem as weird as the other dude. And then this guy, he seems the least weird, right? Michael Herrera. And I think I've seen him on other stuff after this that wasn't, basically UFOs. So Greer's got a whole gang. And he's been on Shawn Ryan's show before. Shawn Ryan, probably part of the Greer cult, honestly. Maybe not. Just likes him, or he's popular in ufology. Good and bad. He says a lot of stuff over and over again. So if you're watching his interviews, you'll see him, repeat his, stories. His origin story. His interactions with everyone. This is one of my favorites because it's Dr. Greer. It's got all the classic Dr. Greer stuff. And not in this episode, but in one of the other, like in his own podcast here. He says, like, at the end of this podcast, he's like, it's a way of like credentialing himself, qualifying. Maybe not even wrong, honestly. He hasn't been saying anything different since 1995. Like, he says that. I don't remember exactly where, but it's towards the end. He's like closing up. And it's true. But he doesn't always say all the same things in every episode. There's a lot of stuff that has to go over. He's got a lot of witnesses, quote unquote, whistleblowers. I think he's calling almost everyone a whistleblower nowadays, but they used to call them just like witnesses or experiencers for different reasons. But his, library is vast. There's a ton. He's got tons of podcasts of his own. He's got tons of guests. He's got tons of witnesses. You can spend weeks just watching all of the Dr. Steven Greer content that there is. Like, there's uncountable hours. Maybe someone got a good count on it. I don't know. I'd stop counting at a certain point. Lue, not uncountable hours, but it's a lot more than 20 nowadays. It's not like a bad episode of Lue Elizondo here on Shawn Ryan Show. I think I have it focused down around here. You know, he says, just like Dr. Steven Greer, he's got a kind of like, you know, syllabus that he goes through almost over and over again on everything that he does. He spends a lot of time talking about the Cold War. I mean, it's not a lot of time, but, you know, talking about the Cold War. His, you know, behavior's kind of like more the same, you know. He talks in parables. Right around this mark, Shawn asked Lue, like, what the fuck is going on? Who are they? What are they? Tell me the deal. Because, like, normally I'd wait until the end to ask this, and I think that's how he starts the question. Well, who are they? Or something like that. And then Lue gives like a 40-minute answer to say, I don't know. And I think even that's what he's like setting up here. That's why it looks like he's taking a long time. Because he says, like, it could be like something happens, an event, and there's, you know, U.S. people involved, like Lue Elizondo, ATIP people, or whatever. And they say now in Congress that they were, you know, NHI. And he says, well, that could be anything. That could be like a dead deer on the side of the road or crater or whatever. Something like that. And Lue says, oh, for 40 minutes, you know, yeah, there's different things and there are different kinds of perceptions of how the reality works. So, like, some things see differently. This long answer, and in the end, he says, I don't know what they are. They're different. They're not us. They do different things. And there's, you know, some parable talk in there. I don't think there's anything, honestly, of any kind of like significance in here. I think basically the significance of the interview was that it happened. And, you know, Lue looks better and looks better, is speaking better. Everything about Lue Elizondo 3.0 is just better than in the past. So I think it's like working. Yeah, I mean, he'll tell you about, you know, when flight was invented, different types of aircraft, the historical UFO documentation. I don't know. I don't remember what that was about. Doesn't matter. No one ever nowadays, I don't even think I've really ever seen it, you know, gets in there and mentions or talks about or asks these guys about Tom Delonge, TSA. And that's like where the split, the rub, the grudge between Greer and Elizondo, I think, really originally comes from. Is it's, you know, Tom Delonge was kind of like a Greer kind of guy. He was at least hanging out with Greer, and Greer, you'll see if you look back, we'll mention Tom Delonge back in the day and how he's hanging out with him. And so that's like a Greer thing, is, you know, he hangs out with a lot of celebrities. He'll tell you, he doesn't say it in his more recent videos very often, but, you know, he says that's part of his, yeah, that's part of his plan. That's part of his insurance, is that he's got all these people like Shawn Ryan, or, you know, I don't know, Selena Gomez, Limp Bizkit, Fred Durst. Celebrities that, if something happens to them, they can all come out and they all have all the info and they can all release it also. So that's what keeps him alive, so that he can tell us. And, politicians and leaders and powerful people that he hobnobs with all the time, the deal about the aliens, which he says are not bad. The aliens are good. All the aliens. All the bad aliens are fake. They're not aliens. They're mans, humans, U.S. black projects that are pretending to be aliens, or mistaken as aliens, or covered up as aliens. All the bad stuff, anything that you would consider bad, is U.S. black ops, reverse engineers, pretending to be aliens. He says, there's elements in the government that want to have a war with the aliens. The aliens don't want to have a war, but the government's going to force it. Should be right there, right after Wet Works. It's not the first time he mentions it. I don't even know if it's the first time on Shawn Ryan, but he mentioned it in other places. Sometimes he calls it a strike team, sometimes he calls it a strike force. But he says he's got, associates in the government, recently out of the government, military people who are ready and organized and authorized and legitimate and righteous in the fact that they're doing the right thing. They're for the good guys. So he's got a strike team, he's got a strike force that's ready to go after the bad corporations, go right into the places and take the alien recovered technology, materials, crafts, etc., bodies from them, and basically return them to the rightful owners, which is, I guess, the legal side of the U.S. government. Because he says, there's an illegal side that's black funded. But, this was July 2023. He says, even, I think it's in this show. I mean, it's right here that he says it. It's ready to go within the next 6 months. There's a deadline that's been set, and they're going to do it because they're fed up. So that was not exactly 2 years ago, but it wasn't 6 months ago. The feud between these two guys is that, or the original feud, Lue Elizondo stole Tom Delonge from Dr. Greer. And he is not happy about it. Anytime you see him talk about it, he's, mad. And then, I think the next reason that you'll see him mention is that Lue gets easy airtime, easy access to big media, mainstream media like CNN or 2020. And then you'll see him say, he's a, counterintelligence, disinformation agent sent to fool us all into thinking that the aliens are the bad guys, so that the government will have a, easy time selling the aliens because they'll be evil and we'll fight a war with them. And they're already doing a lot of that kind of war stuff, like shooting down UFOs and building space fleets. I mean, Lue basically says, I don't know. And then he'll say, what I can say is that I don't know. That there's stuff he knows that he can't say. So what he can say is that, I don't know. But it's mysterious. So I think just in like ufology, Greer kind of wipes the floor with Lue. Just in the massive weight of his information, even if like most of it's trash. I'm not sure it's all trash. It's one of the reasons I kind of like these sort of guys, and that's probably like when they say that they're disinfo, that they would use them, is because they are, military dudes telling you about like running into flying saucers in the middle of the jungle or Antarctica.